So you went from that first initial like college painting company to a bunch of real estate businesses. I mean, you had an investment company, you were renovating, flipping homes, you were building homes. You also were acquiring properties and renting them out. I remember you got married somewhere shortly after that period of time. Talk to us about that next phase then after that first couple of years with the first business, what that looked like and how you transitioned. You took those lessons that you initially learned and then took them to the real estate business.
It's a blur now. So again, like back then I was a poor college kid. So making a little bit of money goes a long way. So I focused on not spending any of it. I was like, I didn't have health insurance. Like a lot of kids are like, how do I not? What would I do without health insurance? I just didn't have it. If I got sick, I got sick. It sucked, right? But there were times where I didn't have health insurance and I was, didn't have money either. So I was really screwed. And so I just piled away cash. And then I knew that cash was just going to sit there and lose value over time. I didn't understand what fiat currency was and a lot of the understandings of economics. Even though I was an econ major, graduated econ, I didn't know anything about economics or finance, like truly. None of my business friends did either. But I knew that money can't just sit in the bank. I mean, banks don't pay interest. We all know that. Our generation does. So you got to do something with it. What are you going to do? I played around with trading Forex and I blew up an account, lost some money. Some people play, like poker was really popular back then, but I suck at poker. At least then I did. And so I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this money, but I'm not going to like spend it. And so we started buying properties in Detroit, right? We actually bought some together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That was where we started. Like we ended up going to some of the real estate investment groups out in Detroit, at the Detroit area. And I remember the first guy I met that would talk to me, I was like, I want to do business with you. Like that was it. I'm in business. I do business. It works. I want to do business with everybody. So I do business with the guy and he ends up selling us a house for $2,000. That was the first house we bought in the city of Detroit. It was part of a tape of assets. So investors back then were buying a whole series of houses from the bank because the banks couldn't offload them fast enough. They had to get them off the books. So you could cherry pick specific assets. I'm sure we bought the worst possible house, but it was for like the cheapest amount of money. In the worst area, yeah. Worst area. I knew nothing about Detroit. I really have never been to Detroit. Like grew up in Bloomfield Hills. They call it a bubble. Like I've been to Detroit 3 times in my life probably. But here I am, like we have title to a property. What do you do? Well, everyone knows if you buy real estate, you make money.
At least that's what a lot of people say, right?
It's what you hope. It's what you hope. You don't get into it to lose money, but guess what? A lot of people do. So I just remember like, what do you do with this house? It actually was, it was terrible because it was in the middle of a rehab. Remember, they had redone all the hardwood floors. Yeah. The whole house was painted, smoke detectors throughout. Like they were getting it ready for Section 8 or whatever or an appraisal, whatever they were going to do on the flip. I remember checking public record and it looked like the repo happened and they owed like $119,000 on the house. Mm-hmm. And there was kind of a rule of thumb back then, like back in 2006 or 7, everyone said you could buy houses in Detroit and they'll all appraise for $100,000. So you buy them for 20 or 30, you fix them up and flip them. Well, that was repoed for that. We bought it for $2,000 cash. and there were no back taxes too. It was just legit title. Well, the title was the dude wrote a quick claim deed at Starbucks and slid it over to us. So we signed it. Like he signed it. And we're like, hopefully we have title to this property. No one's doing a title search because that would have been another $2,000. But yeah, we got keys.
That's right.
We might not have gotten keys. We probably had to kick in a door and change the locks, but we had a house, supposedly titled to the house. I hope we actually owned that house. I don't even know anymore. But what do you do? Like it still needs a whole, the plumbing system, HVAC, it needed all this other work still to be done. And we didn't want to put in a ton of money to fix up. We were still new to real estate. We wanted to hold whatever money we had. So what do you do? Like there's strategies, right? And a lot of guys were selling on land contract. So we tried selling it a couple of times, I think 3 times. And every single time someone would give us cash for the very first deposit or the first payment. Never got another payment since then. But every time they would like possess the house, they would just destroy the house. One time there was a guy that stopped paying. I think his name was like Dominic or something. And we're like, yeah. Where's Dominic? Where'd Dominic go? He just stopped paying. Like we were texting him, nothing. And we ended up like searching on Google and like the guy was in prison somewhere. And I remember you and I actually went to go visit him.
To get title back.
Get title. Like, hey, well, we want to do this legit, right? Like we could do it illegit. There's people that just do whatever in Detroit, but like let's try to do this by the book. And so I remember we tracked him down. We found him, scheduled a time to go visit him. We had a cash for keys type document written up to get title back. And we go to meet him. We sit down at the booth And then they bring him out, and he's expecting like a family member, and he's like, "Who's here? Who's here to see me? Who's that?" And he kind of recognized us. He's like, "Those guys, like, what?
Oh, it's a guy just sold my house."
Oh, he was so upset. He's like, "Oh man, that's my landlord. I don't want to see my landlord." Oh man, but we end up getting some of his stuff back because people literally, like, if you vacate a property, they kick in the door, steal all your stuff. TV's gone, DVD's gone.
Yeah, we negotiated to give his stuff to his baby mama on the street in exchange for him to sign over title back to us.
It was a sad situation.
So we could resell to somebody else.
You got to help them any way you can. So like we did it. We got possession back, and we sold it a couple more times and lost money. I think we sold that house for $800.
Yeah, we got like what, $500 on each deposit or $800.
Yeah.
It was a great learning experience for sure. It was a ton of fun, good stories. But from there, we actually did a lot of. Once we got out of Detroit, we did a lot of successful real estate deals.
Yeah. We did a few more in Detroit, and they were kind of hit or misses. But you have to know your market, and we definitely didn't know our market at that time. And so once we got out of the city, you and I both did pretty well with real estate. And really from Detroit, it went into kind of suburban properties. So where I'm from, like Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, Troy, Southfield area. Eventually I did move to Lansing for a little while. So I bought some properties there too. And we did really well in both markets. So you just have to learn your market. You have to really dive in deep and understand what the comps are. What do homes rent for? What do they sell for? Are you buying it for the right price? Once you rehab your first house, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. You're going to go over budget. You're not going to know what you're doing. But once you do it, you realize, okay, here's what I can budget for rehab. Here's the work I know I can get done, and you can price that in better the next time around.
You learn how to hire and fire contractors, screen a little better, yeah.
Man, back then, too, you throw up a Craigslist ad, and you'd have, like, experienced men twice my age show up, and they would literally line up. Like, you could offer $12 or $14 an hour, and it was a terrible time. I felt terrible for them, and, like, it was scary for us, too. But at least back then, you could get work done cheap. And, material costs were low. Now it's the opposite. Like, try even like finding people that know how to do the work. It's hard.
Yep. Especially for fair pricing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast the market's changed.
Yeah.
From then till now, the demand, and like it was wild to go through 2008 too and watch that market collapse. Like in Detroit, where houses were selling for $150,000.
Yeah.
Sell for $2,000.
Yeah.
No financing. I mean, it was wild.
Remember West Bloomfield Hills? Like, we were buying homes for 40, 50, 60 grand maybe.
Yeah, way below build cost.
Way below.
But then when we would renovate them and flip them, they wouldn't appraise. Like you'd sell them and have a contract signed, and then like because the comps were so bad and everyone was scared of the market, the appraisers were underappraised. And then you'd have to discount the price of the property, and like there still wasn't a lot of margin there because you got hosed on the appraisal on the back end.
Well, I remember when we were running comps then, it was, here's the ARV, here's what homes are selling for. We're going to sell ours for 10% lower. Like, you had to run your numbers that way. That was an extra buffer on your profit margin because homes might have been slipping,
They were still going down in price.
They were going down. Yeah. It was crazy. It was a wild time.